Good morning. I'm Sherilyn Skews and I'm Principal of Annesley Junior School, which is a school just around the corner from here. And I'm here today to talk to you about all of the questions you should be asking in your search for the right school for your child. Annesley Junior School is actually a school that caters for people who are 2 years of age all the way through to 12 years of age. And lots of information will be shared. What we've done is put the transcript of my particular speech on our website, so you can go to that and go back over it and have a look at it. And we also have a transcript at our stall, so you can pop along afterwards and get some information from there. The presentation is really about how to select a school in the independent sector. As many of you would know, you really don't get much choice over your government school. The way you get to go to your government school is dictated by the zone or where you live. And the only way that you can go to a school that is outside of your zone is if a school has a place and that no one in the zone is actually vying for it. In the independent sector, you pay to go to the school, so you can go to whichever school you like. It's a matter of paying fees and getting a place if there is a place free at that particular school. Something else I'd like to say about the difference at the moment between government schools and independent schools. In the government sector, they've brought in a new regulation. As of the 1st of May 2014, to enter reception, your child must be 5 years of age before the 1st of May. The only intake that the government sector will have for reception students is that May date. So unless you're 5 years by the 1st of May, you'll have to wait another full year before you go to school. Some people get confused by that and think that all schools have to play by that rule. In actual fact, any independent school doesn't have to. So we're still in the position to be able to take a child when you and we think that they're ready to start school. So in South Australia, a student or a child must go to school by the time they're 6, but any other rule in the independent sector doesn't actually affect us. It's a rule that doesn't affect us the 1st of May date. What I really like to focus on is the questions that you need to ask to make a good decision. I think it's really important to look at your own situation, so I'm going to give you some questions that you ask yourself. And you can also use the government's My School website. It is a really good website to get information from. Just remember that the My School website lags by about 12 months. It talks about schools in the previous year, and some of their financial data will actually be up to 18 months behind. So be conscious of that when you go to the My School website. It's a really good website to be able to compare trends, so how schools have performed over the last 3 or 4 years in the NAPLAN, and it will also give you data on enrolments, so how big or small, whether the school's growing or whether it's actually going down in enrolments. It's a good website from that point of view. So let's look at the questions. We're going to talk about the questions that you as a family should be asking. First of all, independent schools. So when I say independent, I'm talking about the Catholic sector. I'm talking about totally independent schools. You need to be thinking about your own budget. In Adelaide, schools range in the independent sector from $2,000 a year to $22,000 a year. So it's quite a big range of prices to go to an independent school. What some families do is they think about what they can afford in the first year. But remember, your child's going to be at school for quite some time. So don't say to yourself, well, I can afford that $3,000 for the next 2 years. Think about the fact that that's going to be 5 or 6 years at least. So it's really a very important question to be asking. Second question I would get you to think about is scholarships. Some schools offer scholarships. Think about why they're awarded, which year level scholarships are awarded to. And the next thing you need to think about is that scholarship just for a year or is it a scholarship for 3 years? And sometimes scholarships will actually last for the whole time your child's at school. So a good thing to think about. Think about family traditions. I've had the experience lots of times where people say, my son's going to this school because that's where I went and that's where my grandfather went. And my grandfather is actually going to pay for it, which is very kind. What you do need to think about, though, is it actually the right school for your child? It's not just about paying for the child to go to a particular school. It's about thinking whether it's the best fit for your child. Another really good question is, should I be having the funds if I can only pay for half of my child's education independently, should I be saving them for the secondary school, which is really what people used to do, or should I be thinking about putting those into the early years? There's been recent research now to suggest, and there's lots of logic to it, that if you put your money into the first years of your child's education, you will be able to establish someone who wants to learn, who knows how to learn, and they'll be having a really good foundation to build upon. What often happens is people say, well, it doesn't matter when they're young, as long as they're meeting people and they learn how to read, that's fine. But then in the latter years, what they do is they pay for a lot of tutoring to actually make up for what's being lost in those early years. So it's a really good idea to think about educating that child well in the younger years if your funds are limited. The next question you should be asking is, which educational features are important for you in a school? Would you like to select a school that has a preschool or an early learning centre? Some people believe that if you go into a school that has one of those particular facilities, then the child at 3 or 4 will settle into that environment, and when they actually have their first day of primary school, they'll know the place and they'll transition into formal school really easily. Next question, do you want your child to stay at the same school from preschool to year 12 or 13? The advantage is that everybody knows the school. You know where to drop off, you get to meet lots of parents, and you might keep relationships going for 12, 13 years. The disadvantage can be that you may have locked yourself into a particular school that's actually not working out for your child. And so sometimes it's hard to get out of that particular situation. So there's disadvantages and advantages about a school that goes from maybe 3 years of age all the way through to 18 years of age. You might choose a school according to the developmental ages of your child. So you might actually choose a school where, as a young learner, you watch your child develop, and then at year 6 you say, I'm going to look, well, you do your research before they got to year 6, but when they get to year 6, I'm going to move to a middle school that works really well for them. And then when they get to the senior years, 10, 11, 12, you might be able to go to a senior college. And so think about the different options available. It's very important. Another common question is, should I be sending my child to a co-educational school or a single-sex school? I don't believe there's a blanket rule. It depends on what your child's like. Some children perform really well academically in a single-sex school. They are very happy to ask questions because of the fact that the opposite sex isn't there. Other children actually need the opposite sex because of their impetuous behaviour. It actually settles them down. So you really have to think about your child, and I strongly recommend that you think about your child as a learner, not as a social being, because it's quite different. They might get along really well with everybody, but think about how they learn and whether they would be good with having boys and girls together or whether they'd have better with single sex. You need to think about in the independent sector that whether you want a particular style of philosophy. Now in government schools, it's one particular way of learning, whereas in Adelaide, we're very lucky. We actually have international baccalaureate schools, we have Reggio Emilia inspired schools, we have Waldorf Steiner schools and Montessori schools. So there's lots of variety, and it is a matter of getting onto the internet, reading about them, and thinking about all of those options that are open to you. Think about whether you'd like a school with a strong religious foundation, a school that actively promotes the religious beliefs of your family. That could be very important for you, so consider that in your child's schooling. Think about co-curricular activities. Some people say, I love our particular school because my child gets the opportunity to do so many things after school. They get the choice of swimming and athletics and chess and performing and ballet. But then another person might say, actually, I don't like that because the school says they have to do something co-curricular with the school, and they actually really like doing archery and they've been involved in an archery club for years, and we don't want them to stop doing that. So it's very important. Some schools say the co-curricular program must be the school's co-curricular program. So think about that when you're doing your research as well. I think another important thing is how your child will access the school. Where is it? Is there a bus service? Does the bus service cost more? What is the bus route? Is it going to have, will it pick your child up the bus from just down the corner? or will actually have to travel quite a distance to get to the bus. Some people now are actually selecting their school closer to work. What they're doing is saying we can have some family time travelling to and from work, and it means that my child doesn't have to be in after school or before school hours for such a long time. So think about that. It's always a possibility to have a school that's actually near your workplace, particularly if you work in the city. Another key component for people going back to work: what services does a school offer? Does a school offer before school care, after school care? What time is the service? We've actually chosen, because we're a school that's close to the city, for every child that comes to our school, we're able to look after and educate them from 7:30 in the morning till 6 p.m. at night. And we're open 49 weeks of the year. So for working families, that can be quite advantageous. So think about that when you're asking or researching a school. Is that important for you? And we're also a school that offers the childcare rebate and the childcare benefit, another important question to ask of a school. They're all the things that I think you should be asking yourself, what's important. Once you've done that, you should have been able to rank at least 2 or 3 schools that you find appealing. Again, go and visit the schools. What you read about them on websites, what you hear about them in the street can be quite different. So go and visit the school and find out about it. Remember, schools are dynamic places, they change. So what a school might have been 10 years ago might not be what it is now. So please make the effort to go and have a tour, ring up, make an appointment and meet the principal. Very important in your research. Questions to ask once you're at the school. You might read on a website that the curriculum and tuition fee is a certain amount. You need to be careful. Some schools, that is the total amount of money that you pay. Other schools have add-ons. So some schools have the situation where they will add on, if your child plays sport, that they'll ask for extra money for that. They'll ask for subject levies. So if they have music or art, they'll ask for money for that. They'll ask for money for stationery packs, for swimming lessons, other things that can be charged. Often building funds are talked about and they're supposedly voluntary. Often parents feel compelled to pay those building funds. So please, when you go for your tour, ask specifically about what the charges are outside of the curriculum and tuition fee. The other trap that people fall into is the fees rise sometimes at schools depending on the age of the child. Our school, we have a flat fee, so when they join, you pay the same amount whether they're in reception or year 6. Some schools it rises every year. Some schools have it that junior primary it's a certain price, and then when they get to upper primary it changes, and when they get to junior secondary it changes again. So it might not be static. You need to ask that question. Think about how the school caters for your individual learning needs. Schools aren't like what I'm doing now, that is teachers standing at the front talking at people. They're much more collaborative and engaging environments. But sometimes schools offer special programs for students who are particularly bright or students who need some assistance. So find out what sort of flexibility there is in the learning within the classroom and outside of the classroom. Consider how big or small the school is. Have a look at the grounds. Ask about the facilities. Is the equipment shared by all of the children or are there separate play spaces? Think about out-of-school hours care. If your child's going to be spending some time there, have a look at it because they might be spending up to 10 hours a week in that particular facility, so it becomes just as expensive as a classroom. Another thing is really important is the philosophy and the values of the school. It will say certain things on the website. When you go to the school, ask the school what they think about it, what's actually important to them as a school site, and see if what they say on their website is what you see in action. And I recommend looking at the interactions between the staff and the students. That will give you a great insight into what that school values. Oh, we can go a bit further if you like. I think something else that's important, we invite our parents into our school. We like the fact that families are a part of our environment. And so see what's happening around the school when you're on tour, how many parents are there, and whether they're involved in your child's learning. Very important part. When do you start looking? Well, if you're looking for an ELC, an Early Learning Centre, someone who can start at 2 years of age, hi. Sorry, just one of my students. I have to say hello. If you want an ELC, you need to start now. Places in the ELC, particularly close to the city, we're bursting already, and I know that there are very few places in ELCs, so you need to start doing some work now. If you're looking at reception, the earlier the better. Schools will talk about waiting lists. They're variable, but you need to get in, do some homework and start making some tours. So if you've got a child that you're looking at starting school when they're 5, I would suggest that you start doing some work when they're 2 or 3 years of age at least. So I think I'm just about out of time, aren't I? I must be close. For me, the most important thing is thinking about what is best for your child. If you really want them to have a strong and healthy and vibrant life and be happy people, have a look at a school that suits you and your child, because there's a great scope out there, lots of schools in Adelaide to choose from, so take advantage of that. And when you go on tour, you can read lots of things, you can think the uniform looks great, listen to what your tummy tells you. Often what we have, that little voice inside that says, this school feels just right, go with it. If you have an uncomfortable feeling, I'd walk away and try somewhere else. It's very important that you listen to your intuition. So if you have any questions of me, I'm quite happy to hang around for a while. I'm also going back over to our little booth, and like I say, we've got the transcript there, so please don't hesitate to come up and introduce yourself, and I'll answer any questions you have. Thank you for listening.